In relation to the game today, I thought Indiana was more opportunistic with the short fields they had in relation to the short fields we had. There was much of the beginning of the game where they were struggling to get out of and across the 50. We didn't have as many points come out of that as necessary. And then there was moments of the game where it shifted, and we were defending short fields, and they capitalized at a higher level, also converting a couple, I think, 50-plus yard field goals. And then very disappointed in the punt return. That was a critical juncture in the game, and they executed that really well. So their punting game and their taking advantage of short field today, I thought, was the difference. Our plan and our defense of their starting quarterback was exceptional. It took us. They scored 14 points, I think, before we adjusted to their next quarterback that came in, and I thought we did at that point. But ultimately, again, what I think is the opportunistic nature of field position usage and scoring was the difference. So I'll take questions.
Had the offense and special teams played better, was that a good enough defensive effort to win, or at least be in the game at the end?
It's speculation, but there was a lot of good things done defensively today, and but you can't ever predict or project. But it takes 3 phases of the game to play complementary football, and so that means if one side stops and there's field position added, then the next part of the team has to capitalize on that, and that's the way that you have the best chance to play complementary football, which leads to the outcome that we want. So, yeah.
I think 5 of the first 8 drives were 3 and outs. What wasn't clicking for the offense, and what did you think of, I know you haven't reviewed, but Kurt's performance? He seemed maybe a little off.
It was a slow start, and that was evident. And then there were patches. It was a little bit streaky. There were patches where it looked rhythmic, it looked efficient, it looked poised. I'm talking offensive in general. But it was certainly a slow start, and then it was inconsistent in terms of patchiness. And again, there was a rhythm and some momentum at different stretches, but really just not consistent enough, and it started slow.
I think it was 2.2 yards per carry on a run. How much did that kind of throw things off?
It's still something we're working on. Our efficiency in running the football is shifting pressure to the throw game, and then there was a shift when we got behind, but still within reach. And so there was nothing to me that was panicky all the way until the punt return. I was anxious and optimistic and ready to keep playing football in terms of being within striking distance. And so, yeah.
Bronco, obviously the helmet to helmet at that juncture, you think, they've taken a 23-point lead. It seems like the game is over. You catch a break there 2 plays later, cut that thing to 10 points. Did you feel that was kind of the chance, and to not take an advantage of that? How disappointing is that? Because you were kind of given a big break there at a crucial time.
Yeah, crucial time, and capitalizing on those moments is huge. I'm trying to remember what happened after that. Did they get a field goal?
They had a long drive. You stopped them on 4th.
Long drive and a field goal. Yeah. Is that right?
Well, they had the long drive. You stopped them on 4th down. And then the punt.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. There's I think there's a story within a story within that drive alone. So really glad that they were stopped on 4th down, which is a really competitive play, and going at the tempo they did, one of their only sustained drives of the game. But they did eat up clock, and then we were in a very difficult spot to have to drive out of that. So certainly would have liked to stop them earlier, but also I would say encouraged by the end result and the grit and determination of making a stop on 4th down when, they were trying to score a touchdown. So it's still a good play, but I would have liked it sooner.
You took the early lead at 3-0, but was it frustrating not to score on a touchdown in that possession?
Sure.
cause you some momentum? You had 2 balls go through.
Yeah, there was just like I've alluded to, the opportunistic nature. Just when Indiana had their opportunities, they executed cleaner than we did, and so we had some opportunities slip away, and they capitalized on more of theirs, and they created some more again with again the punt return in particular.
Kurt completed 39 or 40 passes, but I don't think any of them were for more than 20 yards. And I think he averaged maybe 7 yards of completion.
Yeah.
To what do you attribute the lack of a vertical passing game?
I think what's happening now is some of our passing game is just taking the place of some productive runs, and as we still gauge where our protection is and still work on getting the routes and to have them develop and for us to get open frequently enough to throw and catch downfield. What's happening now is the throw game is kind of taking the place of medium to long runs. The run game is not productive enough, and then we hit one a week ago to Levrone over the top, but when you don't do that frequently enough, then the defense just kind of keeps sitting on the intermediate routes, and eventually we'll make them pay for that and have more opportunities. There were a number of shots today in terms of balls downfield, but eventually we have to connect more on those to have the dynamic type of offense we'd like and the scoring production that we'd like.
Coach, you said in your opening that it took a little while to adjust to the new quarterback. Why was that? What was the delay? Was it recognizing, or was it getting the guys to do what you wanted?
No, it was really just a change of tempo. They had 0 success running the football, and he came in, and quarterback runs are really, and that takes a little bit more of involving your secondary. So we had to tweak that a little bit. And then we were playing a zone one time, and he scrambled for a touchdown. And so we realized right then that pressure, in addition to coverage, was going to be the answer. And then the number of sacks started to go up. His ineffectiveness started to increase, and I think we adjusted well. But it was hadn't seen him much, and really with the productivity of their starter against Ohio State and throwing for however many yards he threw for, yeah, 410. So the thought that now here comes number 2 in the second quarter. That means we were playing really good defense to make that happen. And so, yeah, there was an adjustment. And I think we did adjust and played fairly effectively, other than that long drive where we stop them and they don't get a touchdown. But, yeah, it was a unique challenge.
You went without Tim today. Juan playing corner there. What was behind that decision, how you did that?
Well, their receivers are giant, are incapable, and you can see the number of fades they were throwing to them, and Ohio State really struggled. They defended 23 of those balls, and Indiana caught 14 of them a week ago. And so we thought their point production would go down if we had good matchups on the outside, and we did. The outside throwing game for Indiana was not a factor.
Does the number 2 quarterback on the opposing team, who hasn't played at all, does he get much attention in the scouting report? I imagine if you got every backup in the scouting report, you wouldn't have time to do anything else.
We wouldn't, but Indiana has shown a year ago they have a running quarterback system, and so there wasn't anything new that he did that we hadn't and didn't have a plan for. Again, it was a drop back pass scramble that caused a touchdown, and then just some simple quarterback runs that, rather than going for maybe less than 2 yards per run, they started to get maybe 3 or 4, and was able to just change some of the momentum a little bit. Again, I thought the adjustments were good, especially in the second half, right at the end of the second quarter, but it took a little time.
Last week, AJ was short on a 42-yard field goal attempt. This week you have a 36-yarder. You choose to fake it. Was that because of an opportunity, something you saw, or was that still not trusting his range?
No, something we saw, and it was open. So on that particular play, it was a run-pass option, and the route wasn't covered. We didn't execute it. We didn't see it or throw it. So.
Just special teams evaluation, some missed tackles on some.
Yeah, average at best today.
You got Jack back. What did you think of his play and offensive line in general?
Well, too early for me to single out individuals as to how an individual played on the offensive front, but yeah, it wasn't till toward the end of the game where I think we were under duress or pressure. So I think the pressure or the protection seemed fairly consistent most of the day, other than a few times at the end where it became obvious pass. But that I could change after I watched the film, but that's my initial assessment.